Hey guys, it's Amber. Today my presentation is about Huntington's disease, and it's a very rare disease, and I chose this topic because in 2018 my mother passed away from it and all the complications that come along with it, and when I heard about this presentation I was like, perfect, like I feel like more people need to know about it because it's kind of an interesting disease and it's really sad, honestly. So if I get a little emotional, I'm sorry, but it's really interesting. Um, I think this is one of the most rewarding projects I think I've ever done, just because it's like it gave me a deeper insight on what my mom was actually going through and like what she had to go through, and certain things that I would get frustrated with her about. I now understand like she couldn't help it, and it's like things like that. Doing more research on diseases that your family has, it's very helpful to become more understanding, because sometimes people do things or people go through things during a disease like cancer or Huntington's disease or dementia and things like that, and it's like we get frustrated with them because we simply just don't understand. So the more we can understand or learn about the disease, I feel like it's a lot more helpful for them and ourselves. And I think for me, this research helped me become more at peace with her, not her passing away, but me understanding that now she doesn't have to go through some of the really bad things that this disease brings with it. So, Huntington's disease is a fatal genetic disorder that causes the progressive breakdown of nerve cells in the brain. This disease deteriorates a person's physical and mental abilities, usually during their prime working years. So, my mom actually was diagnosed when she was in her early 40s, and it was a hard time, and it was hard for her because she worked a lot. She had two jobs. She wanted to get a third, and it was a weird time. So she wasn't used to, like, doctors saying like, oh, you may not be able to work for that much longer and things like that. So um, Huntington's disease is caused by an expansion of a repeating CAG triplet series in the Huntington gene on chromosome 4, which results in a protein with an abnormally long sequence. Huntington's disease has been around since the late 1800s and was named after a young man named George Huntington, who kind of knew about the disease, but he was the first to actually put in the research or start the research. But it wasn't until 1993 that a group of people actually discovered the gene that causes Huntington's disease. This disease is rare and tends to affect 1 in every 10,000 people. There has been lots of research, but no cure has ever been found. A major focus of research on Huntington's is understanding the toxicity of the mutant Huntington protein and its effect on brain cells, in order to develop potential drugs for counteracting its effects. The research on the disease is hard because of that reason. Um, in order for you to create a drug to help, you have to understand why and how it's affecting your brain cells. And then with Huntington's disease, it is very hard to do that. And in the research that they have, they really haven't been able to find exactly why and how it's affecting the brain cells on that deep of a level to be able to create a medicine for it. They do not know exactly the effect it is having, which leads to most of their research going towards finding that out. Right now, the exact function of the specific protein is not known. Many researchers and scientists assume that is important in terms of regulating nerve cells inside the brain. When it comes to treatment, that's a very, very difficult topic. Right now, the only kind of treatment options are really to treat the symptoms. There's not anything there to really help with things happening inside your head, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of, with Huntington's disease, my mom had a lot of ticking and things like that, so physical therapy and speech therapy and things like that were kind of like the two main things that she did. A common drug used though in treatment is called Xenazine. I think that's how you call it, which is a dopamine depleting agent that is approved for Huntington's. The issue with this medication is it can have unfortunate effects such as Parkinson's and depression. My mom actually took this medication, and for a while she had no side effects, but it was not until later that she developed a deep depression that was hard for her to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So this part was a little difficult to see her go through just because she was a very energetic, happy person. And see, I guess in any sense, seeing someone go from that to one, from one extreme to another is very difficult just because you don't understand it again. And it was sad because she didn't want help during this time, and no matter how many times you would tell her, like, hey, let's go do this today, let's go do this, let's get out of the house, she didn't want to do it. She didn't want to go anywhere, she didn't want to do anything, and it was hard because she was never really like that. She got to the point where she did not want any help. She was in such a deep depression that she just wanted to have everyone let her go, and she was very vocal about that. She was very, very vocal about letting her go. She would say that a lot. Like, just let me go. You don't have to take care of me, just let me go. And we would always be like, Mom, we're not gonna do that. Like, you're gonna get through this, you're gonna be okay. And it's just a lot of reassurance during this time period, and it's okay. Like, I never got annoyed with the reassurance part, just because I knew that maybe one day she would understand, like, hey, you're not in this alone, we're here, we're not just gonna let you go. Physical therapy and speech therapy are also very commonly used to help with the symptoms of Huntington's. My mom was very active, she worked out every day, she had 2 jobs. We decided to put her into physical therapy just so she could still be active and do the things that she loved. We put her into physical therapy so she was able to do the things that she loved and be able to still be active, but also because of her tics. A lot of the time she would be sore, or things weren't moving how they were supposed to, and it was kind of hurting her, and we were like, physical therapy is worth a shot at least. Like, nothing hurts to try. So we put her in there, and she loved it. She really enjoyed this, and it definitely seemed to work when it came to boosting her mood and with certain difficulties she was facing in the different stages she was in. So as Huntington's progresses, there is different stages, and that is a whole other conversation, the different stages. But physical therapy, I think, is very important in this disease because it gives people an outlet. It gives these patients an outlet because frustration is a high symptom. Frustration and anger is a high symptom in Huntington's disease, and so it can be really hard for them to express how they feel, and physical therapy, it gives them that outlet, Huntington's is genetic, so when the carrier of this gene has a child, that child has then a 50-50 chance of carrying that gene and developing that disease. So there is me. I have 2 older sisters and an older brother. I'm the youngest, and it's pretty interesting. My brother actually tested positive for it, as my aunt and uncle both have it. So it's interesting knowing that I could be carrying the gene right now and I don't know. But again, that's why I chose this topic, to do more research and learn more about what's happening with this disease right now, so if later down the road I do develop it, I can be confident in that the research going on is going to help. In better terms, HD is an autosomal dominant disorder, which means that a person needs only one copy of the defective gene to develop this disorder. My brother right now is actually showing no symptoms. He got tested just for his well-being, he wanted to know. And he actually doesn't have any symptoms. So, but as he ages, the doctors did tell him that he is most likely going to develop the same symptoms that my mom had, just because, it's common. But he is a male, and so sometimes the symptoms can differ, and sometimes in men the anger can be a little bit worse. Again, going back to my aunt and uncle, they both do have it, and they both are in 2 different stages of the disease, which is kind of heartbreaking but also interesting in some aspects. The development of the disease is very scary, and basically like walking into the unknown. You never know what can happen or when things can develop, and that is the scary part. It is terrifying getting diagnosed with a disease that has no cure. You could take all the medication in the world, but that cannot stop the decline in correlation to the condition. There's promising research happening right now, and there are many more researchers that are beginning to look into the disease. It is rare and complicated, which leads to a lot of complications within the research and the testing process, but they have come a long way in terms of what we know about the disease. A huge problem with research right now with this disease is money. Because not a lot of people know about it, there's not a lot of donations or money going into research. Like things like cancer and other like not popular but more common diseases obviously get more donations, get more time and effort put into it. So with research right now with Huntington's disease, money is very important, and it's what is lacking a lot in research. Although research is slow right now, there's still small breakthroughs and steps that happen behind the scenes every day. Hopefully, with all the hard work that they will be able to have a cure or medication for this terrible rare disease soon, which it can be used on not only my family, but families struggling all over the world. This is not just a disease that happens strictly in the United States. Like, a lot of times, people see the United States as like, everything happens here, but this disease actually happens everywhere, and it's scary, and I feel like more people need to know about it, and it's really interesting being able to research something and be like, now I understand why they acted the way they did, or why they did what they did. But yeah, that's my story and that's my presentation. I hope you guys have a great day, and thanks for listening.